So what? So obviously, I think you studied computer science. Was that at uni?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
good. So
Well,
tell
BSc computing.
okay. So when you kind of you're quite different then to most people in the sense that maybe they had a part-time job, they've never really done any business or anything. So now you come out of uni, alhamdulillah, you graduate, you get finished with uni, and you've got all this experience. You've done this kind of thing, which has given you a sense of achievement and stuff. Like, how did you then take on the world? What was the next step for you, and what did you do?
I mean, because the business, my dad's business was doing perfectly fine, so he didn't really need me as much. But he wanted me emotionally. He wanted me there. He needed me
Yeah.
emotionally. Wanted me. I'm his son. You can trust me the most and everything. But for me, it was getting to the point. I couldn't do what because you have the father parent, parent dad son relationship. I couldn't say things to him without upsetting him because he would see it as a sign of disrespect. I couldn't disagree with him, but I disagreed with him on a lot of things. This is the .com era, right? And the whole .com thing collapsed and everything. But I could see where things were going. I could see e-commerce. This is pre-e-commerce. I could see e-commerce was going to take off. And I could see a lot of things into the future. And he just wouldn't do it. He wouldn't move into the internet era. He just wouldn't do it. He just wanted to continue putting the ads in yellow pages, keep taking phone calls, keep just doing everything the 90s kind of way. And I could tell that wasn't going to last. It just wasn't going to work. And then I couldn't get him to see it. I couldn't get him to follow that path.
So what did you do next then?
I went and got a job.
Okay, so where did you?
I
What
went and
kind of
got a
job?
job in IT, and I got the highest paying job at that time. For somebody that was my age. I think it was 22 at that time. So I got a really well paid job for a 22-year-old at the time. I completely aced the interview, and they wanted me, and they got me, and everything was great. But within 6 months, I just couldn't take it anymore. I mean, I was fielding 80 IT support calls a day. I was getting screamed at on the phone. My health was deteriorating because IT is very, very. When the servers are down and the network is down, first of all, when you're in IT, you don't get any respect because you're just the IT guy. So you don't get given any respect, and then on top of that, you get all this stress because everybody just dumps on you. Everything is your fault when it's not your fault. I mean, if the infrastructure around you is not set up correctly, you're just there putting out. And I was literally just putting out fires all day, every single day. And even though I managed to make some money and everything, I just didn't. I hated it. I just didn't like it at all. So I went to Pakistan. I set up a software team in Pakistan and started selling software to companies here in the UK.
So did you leave your job and then you were doing that on your own type thing? Yeah.
Yeah. So I went to Pakistan and I went and met the information minister in Karachi. I said, look, I want to hire some. I read this article about Pervez Musharraf. He was the prime minister of our president of Pakistan at the time. And he'd written this article to say that Microsoft had been hiring, all these big firms like Microsoft, etc. They'd been hiring firms in India to outsource their software development, but smaller businesses that wanted to come to Pakistan, they could pay less money, and they could get a project manager and an office and a whole team, and they could get everything, and they could just outsource all their development. Now I didn't have that kind of money, but I really liked the idea of it, so I went there and I tried it, but it turned out to be a pipe dream. It was just too immature. It was too soon, so it didn't really work. But it was a good experience. I tried it. I tried hiring some developers. I learned a lot. I tried selling that software here, but then it caused me a lot of problems because it was full of bugs, and I met a lot of people in IT over there and all these kind of things. So I kind of saw that, and then I came back, and then then my dad introduced me to somebody who then became my business partner for the next 8 years.
Okay.
And this guy had been very successful at Compaq. Compaq has at that time had something like 13 grades, and the 13th grade is CEO, and this guy was on grade 12. So he was very high up, and I wanted to go into network support, and he'd already got it all figured out. He'd done a lot of this at Compaq, so he had the technical knowledge, and then he taught me a lot. He taught me a lot about servers and infrastructure and firewalls, and everything. And then but I had the ability to bring customers in and do customer relationship and all those kind of things. So we did that for 8 years, but that was 8 years of failing. I mean, we just failed miserably every single year. We just constantly failed and failed and failed and failed and failed. I learned a lot, but I just kept failing. And I realized that because I had created a behavioral pattern of my own where basically I went from one business partnership where I couldn't disagree with my partner because that partner was my father. I went into another relationship with that business partnership that was very similar. This guy was a lot older than I was, and because he taught me a lot. It was like he was my parent, you know. And I couldn't. It was really hard to disagree with him. And when I started getting to the point where I wasn't afraid of disagreeing with him, he couldn't take it anymore. You know, because he felt very disrespected by that. And yeah, and then the whole thing just started to unravel, and the wheels came off and everything, and my health deteriorated really, really badly. I was having I've had a lot of health issues for the last 25 years, and you know, the whole thing was just a disaster basically for 8 years. And then I left that, and then I came to London in 2013. My wife got a job, and I wasn't, you know, I was all over the place. So she got a job, and she was like, "Let's just get out of here, let's go to London." And then I started helping startups because I realized some family friend of my wife's, this guy came up to me and he goes, you know, I want to develop an app, and he was about to put £15,000 down on an app, just like that. He was just going to hire a company, put 15K down, and I was like, wait a minute, I mean, that's a really silly thing to do, because you don't know anything about the customer at this point. You don't know what problem you're solving. It takes time to understand what problem you're solving. You're going to burn that 15K and realize, okay, well, this wasn't the right way to do things, but that 15K will be gone. So start with £500, and you know, there's manual ways of validating the market and everything. And that was a real eye-opener for him. He's like, you just saved me £15,000. And then when I realized that, you know, I've got this skill, and he kept telling me, you should be consulting people on this. So then I started approaching some startups, and I ended up helping like 10 startups in like 36 hours, you know, and wow. Saved a lot of people a lot of money and all this. And I thought, okay, this is what I want to go into. I want to go into consulting. So I then just started consulting startups and businesses, and that's what I started doing. So I've been doing mostly that now for the last mostly I've been doing that since 2013. I mean, I've gone through a pivot over the last year now as well, but that's what I've been doing for the last 5 or 6 years.
Fantastic. Okay, Jazakallah khair. It's really, really great to hear the story. Especially what I really like about what you're saying, bro, is that you're very real. Like you're not kind of sugarcoating, because that's what a lot of people do when they come on interviews or they get in front of a camera. They start to, like, you know, show a version of themselves, and they take out all the negativity and stuff. But you're showing it really how it is. You know, this is what leadership is about. This is what life is about, right? Ups and downs, conflicts, failures, all these kind of things. So I love the fact that you're talking about that in your story.